Hello friends and gamers, and welcome to the Lion's Den, home of the Panzer King and his fantastic setup and board. Everybody else has been doing different things on their channel, mostly focused around the board and the pieces and how the game is going itself, and I thought I'd, for today's video, do something a little different, where I'd just do a face-to-face interview with you guys and talk about how things are going within the scope of the game. I'm a fairly candid and blunt person, so I mean to cause no offense to the other opponents. When I say things, sometimes it doesn't come across the same way I mean them. So I just want to say that beforehand before things jump into it. So again, I thought I'd do something different instead of focusing on the board game. So if you want to look at how the game is going, check out Rank Carcass's channel, Panzer King, General Hand Grenade, and later on it'll be Hilltop Pillbox as well. They'll all have videos up for how things are going. Just for perspective on how things are, we're currently in January 1940, which is turn number 12. January 1942, which is turn number 12. America has been at war now for, this will be its second turn at war. Japan went to war last turn and captured the entire Australia and made them, or Anzac I guess, and made them surrender. So the reason behind that is you take off $9 of income from the Anzac and you don't have to worry about them for the rest of the game, and whatever other units they have around in the oceans, wherever else, get taken off the board once they surrender. So that's one thing I did. I wanted to do it this game and see how well it worked. So right now Anzac is out of the picture. I did intend on waiting another turn, but Anzac was fortifying, Sydney. It was getting stronger, and I thought, and the Philippines as well was getting fortification built, and I thought, hey, now is a good time to go, because if I wait any longer, the Philippines will be stronger and much harder for me to capture. Retrospectively, I think I should have waited at least one turn. I think that would have been wise, just because, well, according to Hilltop, his plans was not to go not to finish that fortification, according to him, but who knows how that would have worked out. He already had 3 militia there, and so they'd all been rolling at 4s. They'd also had 2 first strike rolls at 5, and it'd be an attack into mountains. It's hard enough without having, without using our resources to try to capture that territory as well. We were looking to try to have some sort of alliance between the two of us, because the Comintern are played really fantastically well by General Hand Grenade. It's something I'd call it the Red Surge. I think that would be the best strategy for it. The Red Surge, which is a concept of utilizing to the maximum capacity as you possibly can, utilizing that feature of having a discount of 1 IPP. And so combining that with Rank Carcass's decision to go to war one turn later, and also being tied up in Yugoslavia and the minor nations, it meant that his push into Soviet territory was at least 2 turns behind. General Hand Grenade was lucky on his peacetime increases as well, and so that meant he was promptly in the war, declared war on Germany, and negated that surprise strike the Germans have. So there has been no Operation Barbarossa this game. None whatsoever. Germany has not even set foot on any Russian territory. That's the way things are. General Hand Grenade went ahead and took out all the minor nations he could reach that were within range. Next one up is Turkey, with the concept of if he goes any further than that, the Allies would declare war on him. So it's quite smart in his case just to keep it kind of adjacent to the borders of Russia so that the Allies can never declare war on him. Now, he's doing quite well, and likely, I suspect at this point, he's going to win the game. I think there's very little we can do within our scope of things, but doing fantastically. Well played by General Hand Grenade, unless the Allies turn around and somehow start assisting us. But there's an issue there, is the Comintern are effectively shielded, both diplomatically by the concept of the Allies not being able to declare war on them, but also by the Axis kind of sheltering them like a shell, an eggshell on the outsides, right? You have Russia in the western side, on the European side, you have the Axis are holding a territory there, and so the Allies can't push through that territory to get at the Allies. And on the other side, on the Far East, you have the Japanese and the threat that they pose, and there's very little they can do in that case. So one thing I found in Operation Winter Solace that we played before when I played Allies, believe it or not, that was like the 3rd time I've played the Allies. So I don't play them too often. Out of, I don't know, 20-odd games or something like that, I really don't get too much of an opportunity, mostly because the friends I play with, I have one friend who's very adamant that he loves playing the good guys, and so he always wants to play them. So 3rd time on that game. But one thing that really dawned on me in that game is, probably the best example would be something along the lines of for the Allies to win, they have to not hinder the Axis too much. By that I mean, if the Allies stop the Axis dead in their tracks, likely the Comintern will win. If the Allies stop them at the border of France, the Comintern will win. Likely that's the case, because there's not going to be much room for the Allies to move. Now, it's more likely if France holds that the Allies will still win. There's still a chance of that, but if France falls, then the Comintern have a little bit more. Well, I'd almost say if France falls, then the Comintern are almost guaranteed to win, for the most part. Let me back that up a little bit and say this: the Allies have to let the Axis give them enough leash to do Operation Barbarossa to take down the Comintern a peg. At that point, the Allies swoop in and come in for first place. That is the only way. That the Axis need to blunt their strength on Barbarossa and blunt also the Soviet strength on Barbarossa so that the Allies can win. If the Allies don't allow the Axis to blunt their strength on the Soviet front, then Axis will be too strong for the Allies. The Comintern will be definitely too strong for the Allies, and on top of it, the Allies won't be able to declare war on the Comintern, and the Comintern can bring in victory just from capturing territories that are adjacent to Russia. They get their worldwide domination, they get their ice-free port. It is really not much of an issue at that point, especially if Germany manages to pick up places like, say, Iraq. And then if they pick up Iraq, then Soviets are already at war with Germany, and so now they simply march into Iraq and take it over. So things like that, that's essentially the way it is. So there is going to be conflict between the Comintern and the Axis, but it's really, at that point, Axis is being pressed, or Germany at least, is being pressed from both sides. From the Allied side, completely negating their like military strength on the water, their naval strength, and from the Axis side by land forces, and they're being squeezed in there. The problem is, I mean, that is all historical, but the problem is, in the meantime, the Soviets have picked up Mongolia, Iran, Finland, some of the Polish kind of territories there as well, and with potentials of getting Romania and pushing in too quickly, too strongly before the Allies can make a strong, firm landing on the Western Front. And that's effectively what the Allies need to do to negate the communists, is really grab one of the, well, force the Germans to surrender quicker so they can take out the Soviets. So I suspect now the Comintern are going to win, and quite handily too. It may not look it in paper because there's some changes happening there, but there is, for instance, there's more victory cities being held now by the Axis, seeing as they have 3 that they start off with. I've captured Sydney. There's also Nanking. So I'm looking at, the Japanese control 3, and then the Rome and Berlin. That's a total of, we counted and there's 6, so there's Paris there as well, right? So there's 6 victory points just from the cities, whereas the Soviets only have 1 that they get from their main capital. But for worldwide domination, ice-free port, and more units on the border with Manchukuo, they definitely have the advantage and have the strength. So it's looking like a communist victory, I would suspect, at this point. So it's interesting. I think the solution for the Allies, like I've said, is really back off a little bit, give the Axis a chance to breathe. Maybe strike a deal with them saying don't put any units in France, and then go and take out, let the Axis go, and strike a deal with the Axis saying don't put any units in France or Belgium or Netherlands. Keep the status quo, except for militia, let's say, and everything else you have to send eastwards. Everything else has to be built in Germany or Poland and go the other direction. I think that's the only agreement a person can strike, because otherwise it's a runaway game with Barbarossa. There's very little the Allies can do to prevent this from happening. Now there's another thing that they can do, is go into the Soviet Far East as the Allies, but that is exceedingly difficult if Japan is in the way. So on all fronts, it's very difficult for this fight to be won, and I'm honestly not sure how the Allies will be able to pull off a victory. Their victory points are so tied in with the communists and with the fascist nations being reduced income, so it's much more difficult than you would believe. So it's interesting, quite a bit interesting. So I've talked about, well, that communist strategy and how well they've been doing. The Allied strategy so far, well, I'm seeing it from my side of things, and likely the story is a little bit different from the other angle, but right now their strategy is to take off Axis victory points as much as possible, in hopes that will allow them and open a door for them to theoretically take out those Soviets later on if need be, or at least come up in a nice tidy second place. But it might be that the Axis might actually stumble and really get third place in this game. There's a decent chance of that. Now Japan is doing quite well. This turn I'm collecting, last turn I collected with my wartime bonus So I have 63. I collected $75 of income last turn, if memory serves, because I got a really lucky wartime economy roll. So $75 of income is equal to the American income, including their bonuses, but not their wartime economy. So things are looking very good for the Allies. Actually, if memory serves, I might be a little less than I expected. 54, I think. 54, if not a little bit more. So 54. So yeah, that's a long stretch from. My memory is fuzzy on this one, but you get the idea. I have at this stage, I'm matching the Americans with my bonus income and everything else. I'm matching the American income as well. So that's how things are looking on the Pacific side. The Axis are barely holding on. They can hold on because the defense favors, well, the defender has the advantage, right? And there's only two territories the Soviets can attack into. One is Romania, which is a mountainous territory, and one is eastern Poland. The idea I would have in this case is build a fortified line on both, well, eastern Poland at the very least. You get a +2 on all defense rolls, and Romania would actually not be that bad as well. Fortified lines, they cost you $10 total, and if you have improved factors, they're down to $4 each, which is the same price as 2 artillery. And for that price, you get 2 artillery rolls at 5, which is excellent, and all your defending land units get a +2. So it's excellent position to play if you think you're going to lose the game. That's the prime strategy as Germany, just to buckle down, build your fortified lines, and hold on. Unfortunately, by Germany doing that, it's turning their entire attention eastwards to Japan. And so Japan's seeing the $75 income of the Americans are breathing down our necks, where last year they put down 11 light cruisers, that they're producing. And the Soviets, they have enough to hold off whatever the Germans can throw at them. And so they could also put their entire 50-something bucks against the Soviet Far East. They have a major factory there now, plus they could rail 2 units in there, so we could see 7 units of any type showing up in the Soviet Far East, which is too strong for me to hold out against. Their plan is probably going to be to get the extra victory points to put CCP back on the map. That's what I would expect. So Japan, their tumble is inevitable, and before you know it, they're going to be down there. And then it will be a struggle between the CCP and the KMT for dominance over there. But likely, this next turn, the Soviets are going to attack. That is my suspicion and my expectation. I have the FEC, since Italy is effectively neutered at this point and not in the war, so the FEC is breathing down. Well, they have their, $14 of income, something like that, is chasing after the Japanese, the 75 for American, and now also, I suspect, the 65-ish of the 65 of the Soviets. So it's this may seem very doom and gloom, but I suspect that's going to be the circumstance. The Allies would really need to. The Allies could recover victory points by going after Axis, but if it's enough to take out and win against the Comintern, that's difficult to say. So, anyways, that's my strategic analysis of where we're at in the spring offensive, and I have been very unlucky with my dice rolls for improved construction. I've been actually, I've been saving up buying ships until that point, and I should have had it like 4 turns ago by rights, but I've been horrible rolls, roll after roll after roll. I think for the last 5 turns I've been sitting at stage 3. Just absolutely difficult, and so it may be the case where I have to bite the bullet and buy things at a more expensive cost, because Americans are going to be coming across the Pacific within a couple turns. Luckily, I have a bit of money banked up in case I need it. I have $109 this last turn that I could spend, and I could match whatever the Americans put down. I'll be a turn behind to put them on the map, but they still have to come across the Pacific, which will take them 2 turns, and by that time I likely will have sufficient forces to hopefully hold them off a turn or 2 and push them back a little bit. And so I suspect that the initial surprise of having 15 ships being put down might be enough to intimidate them, and that's not to mention the extra aircraft I could throw up there as well. I maxed out at 15 ships because that's the amount of shipyards I have, but I could always throw in a few extra. I could always throw fighters and that kind of thing too, just to even the odds a little bit and scramble to the appropriate spots. That is my analysis, people. I hope you enjoyed, and let me know in the comments if you think this is a worthwhile way of communicating how the game is going. And if not, well, I could go to something else as well. I'm just doing what feels natural, and this is actually quite a bit easier on me, where I could just talk about it without too much interruption and give you my side of things. And I hope I don't give that too much away to my opponents if they view this video. But I suspect, because I'm such a small channel, they won't even look twice at mine. Cheers all, and thank you all for watching.